Everybody, Dr. Blake here again. Nice sunny day here in Bellingham. I'm sitting in front of this window and the sun's starting to beam through. I want to talk today about emotions and thoughts and how they play a role in pain and in our overall health. We put the label of mental, emotional, and physical health out there, and they are separate things in some ways, and they're useful categories for us. But it's important to remember that we are these whole beings, and we're integrated in a way that I don't think we really even understand fully yet. They don't just affect one another, they're also the same as one another. So it shouldn't be a surprise to us that if we're looking at something like pain, thoughts and emotions have a very strong effect on the pain. They can even be causes of pain, but it's really important to not put a label on pain as being something that's in someone's head, for example. So I just can't stand when I see a patient and they have pain, for example, and they've been to doctors and they end up leaving with either the direct message was said to them or it was implied that their pain is in their head. And for one, that's just not fair. And two, that's just not true. My take on that sort of situation, if you're getting that message, it's because the people that you're seeing don't really know what's going on, and they've exhausted their resources and their ability to diagnose what's going on, and it's kind of a cop-out. It's also bad terminology if someone's mental and emotional state is playing a role in their pain to say it's in your head. Well, maybe thoughts and emotions are in our head, maybe they're not, but it's kind of pointing a finger almost and blaming the patient in a way like, well, that's in your head, you need to fix it. So I just want to be careful when we're talking about this to not put implication on these things as like being something that's wrong and we need to fix it. They're just pieces of the puzzle. They're just components that contribute, and maybe they contribute a little bit, maybe they contribute a lot, but it's a piece of addressing pain from a holistic picture that is important to understand. So we know that if we're sad, if we're anxious, if we're angry, and we have chronic pain, we know that the chronic pain will be worse when we're in those emotional states. And there's really cool research actually that shows what's happening in the brain that just proves it even more, that we can see what's happening that's amplifying the pain. And I want to frame it as, if you have chronic pain, that it's important to see your emotional milieu as being something that's kind of like a dial. It can amplify it and it can turn it down. So you're never really at a constant steady state of pain. It may feel like you're constantly in pain, and that may be true, but sometimes it's turned up a little bit, and sometimes it's a little quieter, and sometimes maybe you even can get distracted and forget about it for a little while. So part of the program that I work on with people is trying to address parts of the mental and emotional sphere so that we can turn down the dial a little bit and start to get some relief and decreased limitation in our lives in that way. So I'm going to share with you one tool that I think is pretty cool to kind of get thoughts and emotions moving. You'll hear me talk about in other places that we are not static beings, static organisms. Stasis is kind of the antithesis of life. Anything that's living is in dynamic, fluid motion all the time. And so it's important with thoughts and emotions, I think, to just keep them moving. If they start to get stuck, if we get stuck in a cyclical thought pattern, or if we have a particular emotion that we're stuck in, we need to do something to nudge that and to move it into a different direction. So the tool that I think is pretty cool to use is expressive writing. And there's different ways that you can do this. Some people might journal. Some people might just sit down and freeform write. The most important thing about it is, I think, is to sort of get out of your head. So I like the free writing aspect. And you just write down whatever comes to your mind, whatever feelings you have at that moment, whatever happened in your day, whatever thoughts you have about the day, the interactions that you may have had. So I think at the end of the day it's nice to do this. And you put this all down on paper and you just go until you kind of feel like you've exhausted it. Like, yep, I wrote about everything that came up today, and I was thinking and feeling and what I'm feeling now. And maybe you write about how you're feeling about your pain at the time. And once you've exhausted it, you're welcome to read over it again, sit with it, reflect on it for a time, whatever you feel like you need to do with that. But importantly, we're not holding on to this writing, this piece of paper. You do it on the computer. I like paper. I'm a believer in ceremony and ritual, so I think the coolest thing to do with it is to burn it after you're done. But you're going to destroy it in some way, because maybe you wrote about your spouse and how much they irritated you, and you wrote a bunch of grievances that you had because you needed to get that moving. You needed to get it out. You probably don't want them reading it, and chances are you may just want to let that go too. So we're going to destroy this writing in some way. So I like burning it, but you can just tear it up. Those are the two best ways, but you want to not hold on to it. So this is just a little skill tool that you can do to get things moving, and then you can kind of let them go for the time and be rid of them. And you do this every day, ideally. And it's a way to not get stuck in those cyclical thought patterns, to not let emotions get stuck, and sometimes through the process you even are able to get some new insight and awareness into yourself and how you're feeling. And try that for like a week, 2 weeks, and keep a barometer on your symptoms and how you feel. And feel free to reach out and let me know. Thanks. Be blessed.